Hi, I'm Bjorn Frederickson. I'm the Conservation Director at New Mexico Wild. We are a nonprofit, statewide organization that works at the grassroots level with communities to protect our wildlands, wildlife, and water, including our rivers. And I'm here today to talk to you about a new project of ours, which is the release of a statewide river guide, what we call Wild Waters, Passport to New Mexico's Rivers, that features 40 plus river segments statewide that really have outstanding ecological, cultural, and or recreational values, and just to raise awareness about these special river segments and hope that people use that guide to get out and explore New Mexico and explore our special rivers. I want to start out talking about why our rivers in New Mexico are a defining part of our landscape and our communities. And you can go back to geological time and just to say that like rivers literally help to form the landscape that we know and love today here in New Mexico. That includes iconic features like the Rio Grande Gorge, carved over eons into the lava flows up in the Taos Plateau, or the river canyons of the Gila country or in the Pecos, for example. And so water and rivers, literally formed the landscape that we know today here in New Mexico, and kind of brought with that a lot of the scenic beauty that we all love and enjoy. As far as our communities, people of course need water, and therefore in an arid state like New Mexico, people have settled along our rivers since time immemorial, beginning with indigenous communities, who again relied on our rivers when people first came to New Mexico to establish communities and to survive and thrive. An example of that today is the pueblos in New Mexico, the modern pueblos, with roots to these, original people that came to New Mexico. Many of them are located along the Rio Grande, for example. In the 1500s, the Spanish came to the Southwest, including New Mexico, and established villages and communities, again, along rivers and streams. And today, we still have these legacy traditional Hispano communities that are descendants of the early Spanish visitors to New Mexico. Many of these communities practice traditional small-scale agricultural practices, including what we call a sequía agriculture, and those are systems of community ditches that are fed by rivers and streams. They engage in these kind of community water governance and water sharing practices that are pretty unique to at least the Western United States. And so again, in addition to our indigenous communities, culture and history, these Hispano communities and traditional agricultural practices really contribute significantly to what makes New Mexico a really unique place culturally and historically. There are a few things that are happening with our rivers that people really need to know about. I think first and foremost, we really don't have enough water after human consumption, human use left in our rivers for ecological processes and for water security for our communities. And so if you live in Albuquerque, for example, you probably noticed that the Rio Grande has gone dry into the city in the last couple of summers. This is not healthy. This is not normal. This is not supposed to happen. And this is a function of overuse of our water and overdevelopment of our river systems. This last year in 2025, there were 6 unique drying events of the Rio Grande in town, and so the river would come back to life if there was, for example, a big storm upstream, but it would dry out again in the summer. And it was dry in town for something like 6 or 7 weeks in total across those 6 drying events. And again, that has profound impacts on fish. When a river dries, fish die. That includes significant recovery efforts around the Rio Grande silvery minnow, which is a federally endangered species. And so the state and the Fish and Wildlife Service have to catch these fish when the river dries and put them in a hatchery and hope to put them back in the river so that species does not go extinct, for example. Profound impacts on the riparian ecology. And so we love the cottonwoods here in Albuquerque along the river. We call that the bosque. These trees are adapted to a river with water in it that floods. Those processes have broken down due to human development and use of water, and so it's putting our entire river-based ecosystem and these beautiful cottonwoods that we love at risk as well. So that's a big deal thing that people need to be aware of. Again, driven by both human use, but also by climate change. And so we are warming and drying in the southwestern United States. Surface water flows are expected to decrease by 2070 by another 25%, which is already way down from kind of historical river levels. And so warming, drying climate driven by human activity is kind of like a double whammy on this overuse of water by people that's causing our rivers to dry. Another big issue that people need to be aware of with our rivers is attacks by the Trump administration and activist judges in the courts against the Clean Water Act, not to mention a whole array of other important environmental law that kind of helps our community stay healthy. But the Clean Water Act, we've lost protection for intermittent and ephemeral streams, as well as wetlands in New Mexico, which comprise together, again, a pretty large body of our river systems in this arid state, based on court rulings attacking the Clean Water Act. And that means we just don't have water quality protections in place in a lot of our rivers and streams anymore that we used to enjoy, and that we rely on to have safe, reliable drinking water for our communities and for wildlife alike. The Trump administration is making further attacks on the Clean Water Act, and so that's just another thing that we need to be aware of, is not only do we not have enough water to go around that's harming species and ecosystems, and it's going to create increasing water scarcity issues in communities, but we're also seeing a loss of clean water protections. I will say that New Mexico Wild, other organizations, and the state legislature are working on trying to build a program around water quality protections at the state level, because we can't rely on these federal protections anymore. A wild and scenic river is the highest form of protection that exists for a river in the United States, and it protects natural river processes and other unique river values. That said, nationally, only about 0.5% of rivers are protected as wild and scenic, and that figure goes down to about 0.1% here in New Mexico. And so we created this river guide really to raise awareness on these really special rivers and river values that we have across the state, and acknowledge that our rivers are under pressure like never before due to water quantity challenges and water quality threats, and to start a dialogue and get people thinking about, is there more work that we can do as a community here in New Mexico to protect our rivers? This guide does feature some recommended recreational activities across these segments included in the guide, as a way to help people build connections to our special rivers. And with that, we hope that where you love a river, you may want to get involved in helping to get it protected. Get a hold of the river guide, enjoy it, get out and explore. And if you really are jazzed about the work, consider becoming a member of New Mexico Wild to join us in protecting our rivers, our water, and more broadly, our wildlands across the state.